I'm Dana Shagru with CE Ag World Greenhouse Produce, an innovative brand that engages with the rapidly expanding global greenhouse produce industry through a variety of platforms. Our mission is to educate and connect greenhouse produce growers and industry allies to help them better understand and sustainably advance the global food industry. On this episode of CE Ag Talks, I'll be speaking with Garrett Corwin, founder and farmer at Piedmont Microgreens. Garrett, welcome to CE Ag Talks.
Hi, Dana. Thanks for having me. It was only a few weeks ago now that you and the team were visiting us here in person. So now we get to do this virtually.
Yes, it was great to see your farm in person, and I'm excited to tell our viewers a little bit about it. So to begin, would you mind telling us a little bit about how you got started?
Sure. So I actually used to be a marine biologist. That was my undergrad degree. That was where my passion was when I was in my teens and early 20s. And through some work in that field, I got exposure to farming and food systems, a little bit of aquaponics, a little bit of food waste remediation, and just kind of fell in love with food and food systems, all the different ways you grow different things in different environments with different tools, and just kind of did a 180 in terms of what I was into and how I wanted to pursue my career. And moved here to Durham, North Carolina, worked on the Duke Farm, a 1-acre market garden, while I was a graduate student. And after 1 year of that, I went off to Boston, did an internship at Freight Farms, got to see a lot about indoor ag and high-tech ag, got to tour Boston microgreens. And when I came back, I knew I really wanted to start a farm. I wanted to start an urban market garden, but urban land is rarely available or undeveloped or cheap. And kind of took stock of all the ways that I had learned how to farm and that knew existed, the different crop types, and kind of the limitations and requirements of each one. Obviously, something like high-tech ag is generally pretty capital intensive, but outdoor farming, you need land, usually at least a quarter acre or a half acre, if not more. And I was still a student. I had no money. I had practically no time. I still had a half-time job, and took stock of everything and said, microgreens are the only thing. If I want to start today or start soon, microgreens are the only option. I could start in my living room. And that's what I did. I started in the living room of a rented apartment with a couple $100 and a single rack, and just grew rack by rack. And now we're at something like 60 or 50. And that brings us to today.
Awesome. Now, I know last time I toured your facility, you said you got your office space in April of 2024. Actually, my team and I were a little bit confused when we pulled up to the office building. But could you tell us a little bit more about how you renovated the space inside?
Sure. So the unit we're sitting in is 1,900 square feet. The unit next door also went up for sale at the same time by the same owner. So with the help of my family, we purchased both, released the other unit, and then renovated this one for an owner-occupant situation, which for one is nice because it means in 2.5 years when their term is up, we could expand next door if we wanted to. But we're sitting in a light industrial complex. In the building in particular, there's probably 10 or 12 tenants, and we all just sit in these long 25 by 75 foot units, one next to each other. So my neighbors are electrical companies, HVAC companies, roofing companies, things like that. And most companies like that want a mix, a flex space is what people call it. Some percentage of it is traditional office space, maybe some cubicles, a bathroom, maybe like a training room or like a conference room. And then somewhere between 20 and 60% warehouse. This had about 20% when we bought it. And we basically just stripped it all out. We just took it from a flex, a mixed use kind of space, and we took out all 8 offices and pulled up the carpet, put down epoxy, and tore out the drop ceiling, rebuilt the ducting, and basically just added some spigots for our hoses and a whole ton of electrical for all of our lights and fridges and things like that. And yeah, the only thing we kept was this bathroom behind me, a very glorious office. I get to sit right next to the bathroom. And yeah, just pretty much just stripped it out and made it a fancy box with some electrical and plumbing.
Well, to return to how you got started, you touched on this when you were giving us a little bit of background about your farm. But what made you decide to sell microgreens specifically?
It really was just that was what I could grow. Thankfully, I had the background of mixed vegetable production in a market garden setting. I probably looked into getting a freight farm shipping container. And yeah, it was really just, I tell people that it's the illusion of choice, that yes, there are a lot of things I could have grown or that I knew how to grow, but I just didn't have the resources or the space to do other things. So the decision was largely made for me. And I'm happy it worked out the way that it does. And I still love other types of production. And I hope in the future we can find land or find, a mushroom farm or start a mushroom farm, because I think growing is fascinating and all the crop types. But the choice was largely made for me based on my conditions in the beginning.
All right. Well, thank you, Garrett, for taking the time to join me on this episode of CE Ag Talks, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Of course. Thanks, Dana.